Welcome back to a special edition of Tucker Carlson Tonight. Back in February of this year, we traveled to the front lines of the Wuhan coronavirus fight. It was at the University of Nebraska. This is one of the few shows to point out the potential dangers of this virus. China at the time was walling off entire communities, locking people inside buildings to die. But you wouldn't have known that if you'd watched, for example, CNN at the time. Our media, our public health experts, the elected officials in charge were convinced that the coronavirus was not a problem. At the time, Tony Fauci, as we showed you, said it was no big deal. Nancy Pelosi was touring Chinatown in San Francisco, telling everyone they're racist if they're afraid of some virus from China. Bill de Blasio was so high he didn't know what was going on. Our elected leaders were convinced this virus would not affect this country. But we sent our medical contributor, Dr. Mark Siegel, and our producer, Charlie Cougar, to Nebraska to find out what was actually going on. Here's what they found. How do you assess what the president said, and put this news, if you would, from California into context for us?
Tucker, I think we're concerned now about entering another phase of community spread here in the United States, as you said. And we have some concern about it, but I also, and a growing worry in the country, but I also want to offer some comfort tonight because I'm standing outside the Global Center for Health Security at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. We've been here for 2 days, as you said, and the doctors here, the nurses here, even the patients here are playing a role of investigating this virus. We found out it's more contagious than the flu, we think. We found out how it's spreading. We found out that these patients are responding to treatments. This new antiviral drug appears to have some benefit to it. And these doctors and nurses are leaders around the country. You know what they're doing, Tucker? They're getting on the phone, getting on conference calls, and teaching the medical centers around the country how to deal with an upcoming quarantine situation. Take a look.
I was not frightened till yesterday.
This footage is from inside the coronavirus quarantine unit at the Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha.
So this is my room in the quarantine unit.
This hospital is at the very nucleus of the American effort to defeat the disease. They just started clinical trials for remdesivir, an antiviral medication
against coronavirus.
We spoke to Dr. Andre Khalil, who's running the trials, and he's optimistic.
I think that, the data that we have available suggests that's promising.
Late last night, the 15th patient arrived to the quarantine unit. We saw the patient coming in from Sacramento, coronavirus. Some of the best physicians in the country are right inside here figuring out what the coronavirus is and how to treat it. If the coronavirus spreads around the country, are you going to be able to teach other medical centers around the country?
We are, and we have been for many years.
Dr. Jeffrey Gold is chancellor of the University of Nebraska Medical Center.
Watch what's going on in Singapore, in Western Europe, etc. And if they can't contain the virus, I would say we're next.
Dr. Gold walked us to the building with the quarantine center, where doctors seem to have things almost under control. These are the elevators that bring you down into the quarantine unit, where the patients are being kept. In another part of the medical center, we went to the entrance of the biocontainment unit, where coronavirus patients go if they're in serious condition.
So this is the main entrance to the biocontainment unit.
Nurse Kate Bolter is co-manager of the biocontainment unit.
If this door is open, the doors on the inside cannot open.
The drug trial is happening inside, but most of the action, or inaction, is back in the quarantine unit where patients wait in solitude to see what the future holds.
I'm isolated and I have 3 people a day that come in at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's the only contact we have.
Tucker, tonight you saw on the piece Jerry Sarati Goldman, who I interviewed, the patient broke a tooth and she couldn't get a dentist in to help her fix it because of the quarantine. They had to send in Bondo. Tucker, back to you.
5 months after that report, we sent Dr. Mark Siegel to the White House. He asked the president directly about new coronavirus therapies and vaccines. Here's some of his interview in July.
Mr. President, great news today on vaccines again. Yes. Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, 100 million doses being purchased by the federal government for $2 billion. It seems like therapeutics and vaccines are really proceeding at a major speed.
They are, Mark. They're going very well. I watch you all the time, and I watch you're almost like my guide to this because, frankly, you really have a good take on it. You know how important it is. The vaccines are doing well, and therapeutics. I mean, you tell me, but I almost would prefer the therapeutics even first. You go into the hospital, you make people better. But we're doing very well with remdesivir and other things. The steroids are turning out to be great. Plasma is turning out to be really good. We've made tremendous progress, and I think that's why you see the death numbers. Is a horrible thing to say, but that's why you see the death numbers really looking much better.
More on vaccines. I'm concerned about vaccine compliance in this country. 30% of people have said they wouldn't even take this vaccine.
Right.
As commander-in-chief and leader of the free world, would you consider being one of the first to take this vaccine to send a message to the American public?
Well, you know the way it works. If I'm the first one, they'll say, he's so selfish, he wanted to get the vaccine first. And then other people would say, hey, that's a very brave thing to do. I would absolutely, if they wanted me to, if they thought it was right, I'd take it first or I'd take it last, Mark. You do know that if I take it first, I'll be, either way I lose on that one, right? If I take it first, and if I don't take it, they'll say he doesn't believe in the program. But whatever I think is best, whatever we all agree is best, I would certainly do that.
I'll make you a deal. I'll take it, and then you...
We'll take it together,
That's
okay?
right.
Good.
Talk to me about lockdowns. I'm, as you know, very disturbed about you probably more than me, disturbed about the economic, mental, physical, medical costs of lockdowns. And Democratic governors are again talking about lockdowns. What's your view?
You know, you can almost see it on television. I've watched some of these guys. I watched, well, I won't say it because it's not somebody I have a lot of liking or respect for, but a certain comedian that's been locked in his house for a long period of time. And he's like withered away. He's lost the whole deal. He's lost the wit. He's lost so much. I almost would like to use him as an example, but you can use more than just him. It's hurting people. These lockdowns are hurting people. We did the right thing, Mark. I don't know if you agree, but I think you do. We closed it down. We understood the disease. We didn't know anything about this. This came in. This was new. We understood the disease. We banned China from coming in, which was a big move. In fact, Dr. Fauci actually said that I saved tens of thousands of lives. And if you remember, I was the only one that wanted to do it. Nobody. We had an office of 21 people. Everyone said no, but I said, you got to do it because you could see the infection in China. Then we banned Europe from coming in, which was good with Italy and all the problems. But we did it right. We closed it up, and now we're opening. And we've learned, for instance, we've learned that the elderly, especially, obviously, you can say this better than anybody, the elderly who have diabetes or have heart problems, have a problem, they're really susceptible. And, you know, when people like to compare it to the flu, it's interesting because I see the flu numbers, and they're very bad. But when I look at flu numbers, and I never lost anybody to the flu. I never had somebody, over my life, I've heard many people had the flu. They had the flu. How you doing? I have the flu. Nobody died. I never remember anybody saying, like, you know, he had the flu, he died. I've lost 5 people. Probably 6, actually, as of this moment, I think, pretty soon. But I've lost 5 friends that went in. One of them tested, great guy, Stanley Shearer, one of the top real estate people in New York, very successful man, good man too. Never into politics until I ran. He became like a political wild man. He loved it. But a great guy with great spirit. He said, I tested positive. And I said, well, that's too bad, but you'll be okay. Oh, I'll be okay. He went to the hospital. 2 days later, he's in a coma. I say, how's Stanley doing? He's in a coma. And 2 days later, he died. And you know, that's happened on numerous occasions. Probably happened to you with people too. I never remember anything like that. It didn't. I mean, I never remember this happening with the flu. So this is a very serious thing, but we've learned people, Stanley was an older guy. He perhaps could have lost a couple of pounds. Actually, I always thought of him as healthy, but other people that are healthy, the age is such a big factor. When you look in New Jersey, I happen to like, he's liberal, but I get along with him very well. You're governor of New Jersey, right? Governor Murphy. He said they had, with the thousands of deaths, they had 1 death under the age of 18. And I believe that young person had diabetes. But 1 death out of thousands of people, 1 death. And that's an amazing statistic. So we wouldn't have known that at the beginning. In all fairness, you didn't know the elderly would be so badly hurt. So we're really taking care of the elderly population right now at a level that has never happened before.
Are we going to beat this virus?
We're going to beat it. Yeah, we're going to beat it. And with time, you're going to beat it. Time. You know, I say it's going to disappear. And they say, oh, that's terrible. You say, well, it's true. I mean, it's going to disappear. Before it disappears, I think we can knock it out before it disappears. That's what I want. And if I had my choice of vaccines or therapeutics, Give me therapeutics every time, because I'd love to walk into a hospital and give everybody something and they start walking out in 2 days. That's what I'd like. Vaccine is very good longer term, but give me therapeutics, and we're doing really good work therapeutically.
It wasn't simply our media and our elected officials who ignored the risks of the coronavirus, though they did. No organization was more incompetent or killed more people than the World Health Organization. Until the White House cut funding for WHO this year, America was the single biggest contributor to the organization. Here's the director of WHO, Dr. Tedros, carrying water for the Chinese Communist Party back in February, well after officials were aware that the virus was dangerous.
I was so impressed in my meeting with President Xi at his detailed knowledge of the outbreak. There is no reason for measures that unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade.
So in March, as the virus was spreading from Wuhan around the world, Tedros declared Wuhan was a success story. It's a shining city on a hill, he said. He didn't question the data coming from the Chinese government because the WHO is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Chinese government. Watch this incredible tape.
Wuhan reported no new cases for the first time since the outbreak started. Wuhan provides hope for the rest of the world that even the most severe situation can be turned around.
What a lie that turned out to be. We said so at the time. Very few so-called journalists did. We'll show you our commentary on that next.